Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this kind of impromptu live stream. Normally, I do streams at the beginning of every month. With everything that's been going on and the fact that it actually looks like spring's arrived, I thought today would be a perfect day to just do a random Q&A session. If you have questions, by all means, throw them all into the chat. We will get to them. I've got a few that are queued up because I've had so many questions over the last couple of days. I thought it's a perfect time to try and answer some of them live and see what's going on. So by all means, chat amongst yourselves in the chat. What we're going to do is we're going to dive into a couple of pre-prepared questions, and then we're just going to go live and answer as many of the ones that you guys have got as we possibly can. I'm going to try out something new tonight. So I've got one of those audience polling tools that I want to try on you guys. So if you've got a mobile phone or a browser handy nearby, I'll pop that up on the screen in a few minutes, and we'll give that a go. But with that, what I'm going to do is dive across to the questions, and we will get going. So there's kind of a theme to these tonight. You'll see they've come from various videos over the last couple of weeks, and there's been a common theme in the chat. So I thought I'd pick out the key ones and talk a little bit more about them. So one of the obvious ones is with the Octopus outgoing rates changing a couple of days ago, or at least the notification that they were going to change at the beginning of March. Why are the prices for outgoing falling when the prices for incoming are going up? So if you've been under a rock for the last week, or you're not an Octopus customer, this probably passed you by. But Octopus reduced the outgoing rates, that's the export rates, from 15 pence down to 12 pence per kilowatt hour. And at the same time, they snuck in some new rates for Intelligent Go and Standard Go, but they said they were only for new customers at this point. And everyone else, don't worry, we're keeping your rates the same. And of course, everybody's response was, yeah, but for how long? So to answer the question, I actually did a little bit of digging as to find out, what are the key things that I'm hearing about why this is happening. Why is it if the outgoing price is falling and the incoming prices are going up, how does that correlate with the actual wholesale price of energy going down? And from what I can see, there are basically four theories. Let's put it like that. So the first one really is that, and Octopus kind of alluded to this in their email, that export prices track the wholesale price of electricity. And as the energy crisis around the Russian invasion of Ukraine happened and prices just went mad, that they kind of adjusted, when that started to settle down, they adjusted the export price to track the wholesale price. And they're saying that, the wholesale prices continue to come down, therefore they can't afford to continue to pay 15 pence. So although that's happening, the real sort of reason for this, the reason that they're having to bring them down now, is that the import price going up is because there are other fixed costs. It's not just about the wholesale price. So if you're on Agile, you track the wholesale price, but for the rest of us, we don't. We have a fixed price. But as there are other costs loaded into your import, as those change over time, then they've got to change the price of the import tariff. So although it looks like one's coming down and the other one's going up, the other one's going up for other reasons than just the wholesale price. It's hugely complicated. I was reading some of the analysts' papers on this, and lost the will to live halfway through them. But the main reason is because of those fixed costs that are going up. Now we might see some of that change on the 1st of April, because on the 1st of April, the government budget, the stuff they announced in the budget, the £150 off of an average bill, is supposed to come into effect. So one of the other sort of conspiracy theories out there is Octopus are lowering rates now, and then with the import prices expected to fall in April, that they're basically playing with the numbers. So what they're going to do is they're going to bring our export price down now, and then our import price will come down in April, because they're going to have to do that in April. So it's just playing around with numbers. Again, I kind of hold Octopus to a little bit of a higher standard. I wouldn't expect them to do this kind of thing. The third one that obviously comes up all the time is Octopus are being greedy and they're just trying to boost their profits. Well, we'll come back to whether they're greedy or not in a minute. But Octopus have been making a loss. So as a company, you would expect them to do something to address that. They've actually had a loss, I believe, in the last 2 years. So if this is a component of that that is causing them to have a loss, then I fully expect them to change the prices. And then the fourth one really is that the grid doesn't need as much of our solar as we think it does, and that the worry is that this will lead to an Australia style charging system where Australians effectively in the summer get paid nothing for export, and in some places they actually get charged if they export energy to the grid that the grid doesn't need. So I'm sure there's some truth in all of these rumors that have been floating around in the comments. But the thing to remember is energy companies are businesses first. I know Greg and the team at Octopus, they have this ability to make you feel like you're one of the family and that everything's going to be great and we're in this together. But remember, as a company, their first duty is to their shareholders. So if they're making a loss, as they appear to be according to their records, they need to resolve that. And the way they resolve that is by us paying more. So either them not giving us as much for our export or putting up our prices. Okay. Do you think that the peak price, do you think off-peak prices for IOG and Go will fall in April? Well, given they've just put those up for new customers, I think it would be a little disingenuous of them to say, put them up, and then when the government say you've got to reduce prices, to reduce them back to where they were. So the short answer is no, I don't think the off-peak prices are going to change. I think they're going to stay roughly where they are. Minor changes, but I think we're still going to be paying somewhere around about 7.5 pence per kilowatt hour for off-peak. But there are three things that I'm kind of expecting to see. The peak rates will have to be reduced because that's where the direct costs that the government are moving into general taxation, that's where they're coming from. So even if you're on Intelligent Octopus Go or one of the other smart tariffs, your peak rate, the most expensive price you pay, I expect to see that come down pretty significantly. I think some of the tariffs are going to get modified. If you're on Cozy right now, I would expect Octopus to either get rid of Cozy or to have to do something about it because it's looking more and more uncompetitive. It kind of punishes heat pump users. It looks attractive with its 3 rates, but when you average them all out, it's just ever so slightly below that standard rate, whatever it is, 12-month fixed tariff. So I expect to see some movement on sort of modification of tariffs. And I expect standing charges to go up. Why? Because standing charges go up. Whenever the DNOs and the people who basically profit from this get the opportunity, they put the prices up. So I think they're going to try and hide a rise in the standing charge in this reduction in the rates that are going. So those are my 3 predictions. I might be completely wrong. I expect to be wrong on at least one of them, but we will see what happens come the 1st of April. Now, this comes from a question. I've been saying for a while now that my plan is to change into Octopus Flux. And Octopus actually have 2 tariffs. There's Intelligent Octopus Flux and there's Octopus Flux. And there's a lot of confusion around what they are, what's the difference between them, and why would I choose Flux over Intelligent Flux. So let me sort of lay it out and I'll give you my thoughts on why one or the other. And this is very specific to me and my circumstances. So again, your circumstances may differ. But if you're not familiar with these 2 tariffs, Intelligent Octopus Flux is as close to what is known as in the US as net metering as you can get in the UK. So as you can see there is a completely flat line. There is an expensive part of the day from 4 to 7, but it is completely flat and it is the same price for both import and export. So if you import a kilowatt hour, and the prices at the bottom of the screen there are in my area, so you can see there, if it's what they call the off-peak rate, the long flat line, it's about 24.13 pence per kilowatt hour. If you export at that time, you get 24.13 pence per kilowatt hour. If you do it in the peak rate, it'll cost you 32 to import it, but it'll cost you 32 if you export it. Now, The way this tariff works is that it's a bit like Intelligent Go, where you kind of let Octopus control the charging of your car. With Intelligent Flux, you let them control the charging and discharging of your home batteries. Now, on the right hand side there, a list of the manufacturers they support. They don't support every type of home battery that's out there. It is a growing list. They keep adding to it over time, but you are giving up control of your home batteries. The home batteries that you paid for, that you own, you're going to allow somebody else to have complete control over it. But it is a flat rate. So if you don't import an awful lot and you export during the day, this tariff pays you more for export than any other tariffs. So during the day, it's 24p, and in that peak rate, it's 32p. But you don't get to control if you're importing or exporting. They're doing that on your behalf. So although it's a flat rate, the disadvantage of this is if you want to do energy arbitraging, that's charging your batteries up when energy is cheap and discharging it when you get a good amount of money for it, you can't do that. This tariff does not support that. So yeah, if you want to do that, this is not the tariff for you. Like I say, you have to give up control. And, I've spent a lot of money on my batteries. I quite like playing with my batteries. I don't want somebody else who hasn't paid for those batteries to have control of them. So, yeah, if that's what you're looking for, then this might be for you. Excuse me. But it is very easy. Once you hand over control to them, you don't need to worry about it. They will supposedly using their Kraken back-end system, they will manage to sort of maximize the amount of money that you make, or reduce the amount of money that you pay for your energy bills. But like I say, it's out of your control when you're on Intelligent Flux. Now, the other side of that is Standard Flux. Now, Standard Flux has 3 different rates, and there is a different export and import rate. So it's not flat, just like it was on Intelligent Flux. You've got a day rate, you've got what's known as the flux rate, and then you've got the peak rate. So the day rate runs through the day. It's the center of those two. Then you've got the flux rate, which is between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock, so only 3 hours at night. And went that way, the price drops to 17.19 pence per kilowatt hour. So it's significantly more than something like Intelligent Go. And obviously with Intelligent Go, you get more hours. But where Flux really shines is in the summer months, or the spring and summer, when we've got a lot of export energy. If you can store that up in your batteries and then dump it all to the grid in that 3-hour period where there is the peak, you can earn 29.3 pence per kilowatt hour for it. So nearly double what we were earning before they cut the price, and actually now more than double than we'd be earning from the 1st of March. So again, it really fits in. If you can self-consume a lot of energy, you can charge up your batteries and you can store it, and then you can discharge it when the time's optimal, then this might be a tariff for you. It supports all makes of battery because you're in control. They have no ability to reach in and turn your batteries on to charge or to discharge. The disadvantage is, one of the other advantages, you can do energy arbitraging on this. So if you were to buy energy during that cheap rate at night time, and then you were to sell it back to them during the peak rate, you'd make about 12 pence per kilowatt hour. So very similar to what you'd be getting for outgoing Octopus. And it does require some management. You've got to sort of keep your eye on it. You've got to make sure that how much you're discharging each day. Do you still have enough to run your house? All of that kind of good stuff. So if you are one of these people that plays with their batteries, that sounds wrong. But if you are one of those people, then this might be an option for you. So my plan is to change to Flux, the standard Flux, on or about the 1st of April, maybe earlier, depending on the weather. And looking at the weather today, I don't know about where you guys are. It has been phenomenal here for February. I was just, before we started this, I was just looking at my stats. We've exported 14 kilowatt hours, 14.9 already today, and I've got a full battery. So I'll be exporting another 15 or so tonight. Then this is the first time where we will have actually exported more than we imported. So to do that in the middle of February, yeah, shows it was a pretty nice day. But once the weather settles down a little bit more, we get a few more sunny days, and I'm able to go into a self-consumption mode, then I will be changing over to Flux. Okay, So for those that saw it earlier today, I put out a video on HMRC and should you pay tax on your solar export. Now there is a load of questions that came up around it, because in the documents, and I'm not going to sort of go over the whole video again, but in the documents, HMRC talks about this 20% above your usage, but they don't specify, is it 20% in a monetary term or 20% in a kilowatt hours term? So is it 20% more kilowatt hours than you would use and then you're at the limit, or is it 20% more pounds than your import? And given their HMRC, I strongly suggest it's pounds, but again, it's not clear. So I thought, just to sort of show this, I calculate it for both. So if we were looking at this from an energy point of view, and I use my 2025 figures here, you can see on the screen there from my Octopus app, we imported 12.5 megawatt hours over the course of the whole of 2025, and we exported 6.7 megawatt hours. So based on that, we would only be about 50, if it was done on kilowatt hours, we'd be about 54% of that limit. So in theory, if it is kilowatt hours that HMRC is interested in, I could export nearly another £1,000 worth of energy at 2025 prices and still be under that limit. So this is why I think it's pounds, because if you look at it from a pounds point of view, I exported £1,009 worth of energy, and I imported 1,143. So we were about 88% of that limit. So are HMRC likely to let me make another £1,000 before I get to the limit, or are they likely to let me make another £100 before I get to the limit? That's why I think it's done on pounds. Although, as with all government documents, these are, I think there is an art when the government writes these kind of documents. There is an art form to making them seem clear but leave enough wiggle room for lawyers, so that if HMRC decides, hey, we're going to audit you. I've been on the other end of an HMRC audit. You don't want that in your life. If they decide to do that, it gives their lawyers room to look at it and go, you thought it meant this, but it actually means that. And that means we're going to take you to court. So that's why I think it's pounds, but it could be kilowatt hours. Not a tax accountant. If anyone wants to go and talk to a tax accountant about this, then by all means, feel free. Okay. Let's dive in and answer some of your questions. But before we do, I would like to get your opinion on something. So I'm going to jump across to here. So if you've got a web browser and you can go to slido.com, it will ask you to type in a number, 3460508, or you can scan that QR code up on the screen. And what you'll get is let me just bring up you'll see a screen like this, and you can just put that number in. Let's get started. Oops. Let's try that. It'll ask you for your name. You can put anything you like in there. Don't really care. But then it will ask you a question. So on a scale of 1, I'm really angry, 3, disappointed, 5, I'm okay with it, what do you think of the recent Octopus outgoing changes? The fact that they reduced those prices by 3 pence per kilowatt hour. Are you annoyed about it? Is it, yeah, whatever? Or are you fine with it? You knew it was coming. You're not really bothered. So I'd love to see what people think. And there you go. You can see live as people vote. It comes up on the screen there. So yeah, if you can jump across to Slido, let me know what your thoughts are. I will leave this running, and what we'll do is we'll come back to it at the end. I will pop the details in the chat. He says trying to find his mouse pointer, just so that once we go off this screen, if anyone needs them. And then that's the number. So yeah, if you don't know why it's done it twice, but never mind. But yeah, feel free to have a go. I'm more interested in how this tool works than I am in the result. So I'm not going to hold anybody to their answers. Don't even have to put your real name in. Just see if you can make it work. It'd be lovely to get a few votes on that and see what you think. So let me just see. So I'm gonna vote there just so you can see what it's like. So there you go. A few more votes coming in, and I say we'll come back to that in a little while. So let me get organised here. Scroll back to the top here, and Michael Richardson. So it might be worth educating fit tariff people on swapping out. Yeah, I mean, we've covered this a few times, but happy to think. So there is a video on this on the channel. I don't have it at hand, otherwise I'd post a link to it for complete self-promotional reasons. So a little bit of history. So back in 2010, we had our first solar system installed, and at the time didn't know anything about the fit scheme, the feed-in tariff scheme. As we installed it, literally the morning that it went live in April 2010, I happened to see on the TV that the government was announcing the feed-in tariff scheme. So I applied and got accepted, and that means that the government then agreed that they would pay a fixed amount per kilowatt hour that you generated. You could use that kilowatt hour and they would still pay you for it. And they would pay you an extra small amount for what they call deemed export. And the way that, because in those days, export meters, smart meters weren't as prevalent. So the way that they calculated that is whatever you generated, they assumed that half of that amount you would export. And they would pay you like another, it started off at about 2p per kilowatt hour on top of the money they would pay you for generating it. Now, those contracts that were signed, they were for 25 years. In fact, so I'm 15 years into, well, 16 years into mine now. So another 9 years to go on that. They are incredibly lucrative. Now, there were different prices depending on whether you joined early in 2010. If you joined later, you got a lower rate. But the questions about the opting out of the fit export. Now, for many years, I just sat there taking the checks. Money would come in every quarter, put it in the bank. It was fantastic. Then when we installed our second system, so we installed another. We had a 2 kilowatt system. We installed another 3.6 kilowatt system alongside it. The installer said, "Hey, have you considered setting up an export tariff?" "What's an export tariff?" says I. So he explained, and I was told at the time, if you make any changes to your fit system, you will lose all that money. And I was looking at going, I'm making at the time, I think I was making about £1,200 a year for 25 years. I don't want to lose that money. So did nothing about it, didn't get paid for export, just continued to claim the fit export payment. Then about 5 years ago, we decided that because the inverter on the old 2 kilowatt system was starting to die, that it was going to be time to do a big upgrade. Instead of having 2 small inverters, we were going to consolidate them all into one big 10 kilowatt inverter. We were going to put panels on every available part of the roof. And I got in touch with my fit provider and said, if I do this, am I going to lose my fit payment? No, they said, if you do this, we will help you opt out of your deemed export part of it. And that means you're free to then go off and apply for an export tariff. And what they do at the same time is they basically took me through the whole process of getting paid for a portion of my entire export. So I don't have to maintain a separate fit system to get paid on the 2 kilowatts that the original contract was for. What they did was they said, show us the whole system, give us the MCS certificate and all the design documents. And what we'll do is we'll say, you can get paid on 2 kilowatts of that out of the whole. For me, it's about 18.6% of the whole system. So every quarter, I submit my generation meter reading. They then work out 18 and a bit percent of that, and they pay me for that for the generation. And they don't pay me anything for export because I'm now opted out. I get it from, in this case at the moment, outgoing Octopus, soon to be into outgoing, Flux outgoing. The way to do this is communication. There is, it seems like every fit provider, whichever your energy fit provider is, and mine is still with Ecotricity, who was the company I was with back in 2010. Um, they've been absolutely superb with this. When I said I wanted to do this, there was a real can-do attitude. It was, yep, we don't know how to do this, but we'll go find out on your behalf. So they went and talked to Ofgem. They figured it all out. They came back to me and said, right, we need photos of the old meter, we need photos of the new meter, we need serial numbers, we need all this information, provide all this, and it all just worked out. So my recommendation is, if you want to do this, you want to get out of your deemed export and move to an export tariff, then just patiently work this through with your fit provider. It took about 3 months to get it all done, to get everybody on board, because once they can agree to it, your fit provider can approve, but they still have to seek Ofgem permission, and Ofgem don't move particularly fast. So yeah, it is doable. There is a whole video on the channel for this. And again, if you've not got a fit system, this probably means nothing to you whatsoever. So so Netto92 became a member. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. So yeah, since starting up the membership a couple of weeks ago, had a few people subscribe and become members. So really do appreciate that. So I've been listening to you for 12 months, and your input has helped. I moved from OVO to Octopus, a huge saving. Oh, brilliant! I'm glad. I'm glad it worked out. It'd be really embarrassing if I read through that and it said, "And you're a complete idiot, and you've cost me a whole load of money" at the end of it. Yeah, I should read them before I put them on the screen, shouldn't I? But it wouldn't be as much fun that way. Um, Hi, John. I've had a couple of questions about UPS systems and your battery addiction. It's not an addiction if you can give it up. I can give it up anytime I like, I think. Um, yeah, so UPS systems. So with batteries, there's kind of three, I would say three standards. There's UPS, there's EPS, and then there's basically sockets that let you draw power out of the batteries. UPS has been around as a standard for years. Anyone in IT knows what UPSs are. They're uninterruptible power supplies. So basically, what they are a battery system with a mains cable coming in one side and a mains cable going out the other. And the idea is, if you've got a server in a rack or something, you plug this between the power and the computer, and then if the power gets cut off, it is uninterrupted. The batteries just supply, so the power comes in through the batteries and then out, so that continually supplies it. There is no downtime whatsoever. EPS is emergency power supply, and this is actually what I have. My house, the Solar Edge backup interface is not classed as a UPS, and the reason for that is the time for it um, to the way. Let me backtrack. The way it works is there is a contactor switch in there. So that means there is a physical switch that physically disconnects the grid from my house. So that physical switch has to move and connect to the inside of the house, to the batteries, to allow the power from the batteries to continue to supply. Um, that can take anywhere, solar rays say 20 milliseconds. I've seen it take about a second to actually kick over and start supplying power, because not only has it got to physically break the connection and connect to the inside of the house, it's then got to send an instruction to the inverter to start ramping up to provide all the power to the house. So I do see lights flicker. I have seen computers reboot, because it's an EPS, not a UPS. But it does mean I can continue to run off the big batteries for as long as they've got power in them. So yeah, if uninterruptible power supply is what you're looking for, I believe that the SIG Energy system, they claim UPS. Tesla Powerwalls claim UPS, but I've got a next door neighbor who's got a Tesla Powerwall, and I can tell you it is not a UPS, because every time the thing clicks over and we have a power cut, his bloody computer reboots. So now, whether that could be his Powerwall, but from what I'm hearing from other people is that's quite normal. You do get the flicker, so it's more of an EPS than a UPS. I actually do belt and braces, so we have the EPS from Solar Edge. This computer, the computer around the corner there that I work on every single day of the week, plus the internet router, they all actually have separate little small APC UPSs attached to them. And I use those because of that few milliseconds, sometimes enough to reboot your computer or to possibly corrupt files. So yeah, I've got more batteries hidden in the house. Who's surprised? Um, there is another way of doing this, is where you can have batteries that basically have like a socket on the wall, and then once the grid goes off, power can be supplied to that socket, and then what you can do is you can run extension cables and then plug your fridge or your freezer or anything into those. Um, I've actually got a video coming out this Friday. I did a test with one of the EcoFlow power stations just to see how long it would last uh, in a power cut situation. So we simulated a power cut in the house. We ran the fridge, the freezer, the internet router, charged laptops with toast and cups of tea and all the rest of it, all running off of this one small battery, just to get a feel for exactly how long it would last. So I think that's coming out this Friday. But yeah, UPS is very, very useful if you deal with a lot of sensitive data. I can't really talk about too much about my work, but there are certain files we know get corrupted, database files that get corrupted with a very small interruption of it. So having a UPS where I don't need to worry about this, if we're writing data and the power flickers, that would be a disaster. So yeah, UPSs are wonderful things. My Powerwall 3 can now do half hourly rates, typically rolls to the end of winter. Okay. So I didn't know that Powerwalls couldn't do this. So I know there's been a couple of sort of software updates to Powerwall 3 to kind of bring them in line with other things. So yeah, that's all good. Oh, I will definitely go and take a look. So yeah, air-to-air heat pumps. They are becoming. I think I put out a video, must be 4 or 5 months ago, when they introduced air-to-air into the boiler upgrade scheme. I put a video out, and it kind of did what a lot of videos do, is they'll get a sort of spike at the beginning, and then it kind of tails off, and you get the odd view of it. The one on air-to-air ones, just in the last like 2 weeks, has spiked up. So I think there's a lot of people interested in air-to-air, air conditioning. Air-to-air is air conditioning. Um, I think that's becoming a thing now because they are relatively cheap compared to air-to-water systems, and I think they're a viable solution for a lot of people. I'm still looking. I'm talking to a couple of people about getting one fitted in here. I'm in my garden office at the bottom of the garden. In the summer, it gets extraordinarily warm in here, and I have a portable air conditioning unit that struggles to keep up. So I'll certainly take a look at that video. And I'm even thinking about solar panels and batteries will change your life. There's no other way about it. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I was planning to retire this year. I'm going to retire early, and one of the reasons I can do that is because we don't have an energy bill. Um, when you're, I was about to say when you're as old as I am. I'm not, I'm not that old. Um, my plan had always been from the age of about 25 years old, when I was in the army. I always said to my wife, we want to be retired by 55 because we want to be young enough to be able to go out and enjoy ourselves. Didn't quite make it for 55. I'm 57, but I have agreed with my company that the 1st of August this year I will officially retire, and I have no intentions of doing another day's work in my life. I'm going to do more of this because this is quite good fun. But one of the reasons that we can do that is because we don't have an energy bill. We don't pay the gas company, we don't pay the electricity company, and we don't pay to fuel our cars. That saves me about £5,000 a year. So yeah, solar panels and batteries, they will change your life. I guarantee it. Unless, of course, you get them put in by an absolute muppet, but don't do that. Got a reply from 2X Solar. G9 both have had their export capped into large scale solar. Yeah, so this is becoming a bit of an issue. So I've heard of a few people recently who they've applied to have their export caps raised, or to get off of a G98 onto a G99 to get a bigger export cap, and they're getting them refused because down the road from them is planning permission's been given for a large solar farm, and obviously there's only so much capacity in the network. So yeah, I think businesses will always get priority, just the way of the world. But I've always had a good relationship with my DNO. We've gone from from a 2 kilowatt export cap, which we didn't even know we had. On the first system, we went to a 3.6 kilowatt, to a 5 kilowatt, to an 8 kilowatt, and now to a 10 kilowatt export cap. There's no point me pushing for any more. We've only got 10 kilowatt inverter, so I wouldn't be able to get rid of any more if I tried. But short of putting in another inverter, which, trust me, with the current conversations around more batteries, isn't going to fly with the CFO, then yeah, we don't need a bigger export cap. But my DNO, they've been great. Can't fault them at all. Can you do a video on a whole home backup, please? I think this is a big topic. Yeah, I'm happy to do one. Obviously, it'll have to be based around my specific system, and different systems are set up different ways. I know I was looking at my friend's Powerwall 3. He's got the backup gateway, and they've got like an entire Tesla branded panel with all the breakers in it and everything. We actually didn't need to do that. The way our system works, and again, happy to go into this in a video, is the power cable comes out of the meter through. So you come in from the street through the meter, comes out the meter, and instead of going straight into the consumer units, goes through the backup interface and comes out and then goes to what we call the backup panel. So I think I've got the fact I'm having to count in my head how many consumer units we've got in this house tells you there's something wrong. I think we've got 5. Only one of them is on the backup panel. So obviously, if the grid goes down, there are certain things that we're not going to run. So we're not going to charge our cars because we're going to be drawing it out of the batteries. We're not going to run the heat pump again because it uses a lot of power. I don't want it to drain the batteries. We want to be able to exist on the house batteries as long as we possibly can. So there is an entire panel that is the house basically, that will keep everything in the house running: fridge, freezer, all the appliances, the internet, all of that. This office is not on that circuit. So again, I kind of work on the principle that if we're in a multi-day outage, then work can wait. I don't know how work feel about that, but work can wait until we figure that out. But yeah, happy to do it. But again, it will have to be very specific to my use case. And again, different vendors do things different ways. We're in Italy. I think we get about 8 euro cents per kilowatt. Simply, yeah. I think we're heading in that direction. We're at 12p now. I wouldn't be surprised if come June, July, we start to see that dropping again. The 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 where we are and where we're going is us to Australia. I think as more and more people in the UK get solar on their houses, um, the more that's being fed into the network, especially on bright sunny days, the less the network actually needs from it. I think we're going to see that slowly eaten away. So anyone who has built their entire plan around this is how much I'm getting paid for export, when it drops to 10p and then to 8p and then to 5p, you might be in for a bit of a nasty surprise. So prices weren't too bad. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, the somebody said to me the other day, why are you angry about losing 3 pence per kilowatt hour? I wouldn't say I'm angry about it, but let me put it a different way. If I walked up to you in the street and I took £200 out of your wallet, I put it in my pocket and I walked off, you'd be angry about that. That's effectively what's happened. So for the same amount of energy that I exported last year, this year I will be paid £200 less. That's what I'm annoyed about, because, yeah, we're giving Octopus £200. What are we getting for it? Nothing. They're actually putting their input prices up. So the price they're charging my next door neighbour, who's going to be using the kilowatts that I'm putting into the grid, is going up. So they're making even more money from it. So that's why I'm annoyed about it. It's not the amount. it's the principle of the thing. I don't know if there is a principle to it, but give me a profit. Yep. Yeah. I mean, there will come a point for every one of us where that change in numbers starts to say, is this viable anymore? Is what I'm doing viable, or do I have to continue? Do I have to change what I'm doing? So that's my plan for this year. Has always been. I'd love to tell you I had a Paul on the road to Damascus moment. The big bright light shot in the sky and said, "Be careful, export prices are going down." That never happened. I just had a feeling that this was the year it was going to happen. It's been too good for too long, and pessimist in me said that they're going to take some of that away. So I'd already built a plan to self-consume as much of my solar as I could. Flux fits into that really well because what we will do is, and I kind of went over this a little bit last time, but is we won't grid charge the batteries at all during the summer. So we'll export between 4 and 7. We'll probably dump 25 kilowatt hours during the height of the summer. Then we'll have enough in the batteries to see us through the night time to get to the beginning of the next day when sunshine will start again. It'll start filling the batteries up. Batteries will be full by about lunchtime, 12 o'clock ish. Then any excess between 12 and 4 will go into the cars. So we won't be charging them on Octopus Intelligent Go. They'll be self-consuming. Then at 4 o'clock, batteries are full again, 25 kilowatts off to the grid. Get paid the maximum we possibly can for it. So that's my plan until such time as rates change, anything like that. But yeah, I would say for every single one of us, we need to just figure out what's the right thing going forward. Not happy about it, but they haven't shafted us. Yeah, it feels like you got your pocket picked. You're still going to carry on with life. You're still going to do the normal thing. Just there's £200 missing out your pocket. But what can you do about it? I can sit here and I can bitch and complain, and they're not going to change anything. So I might as well just get on with life. I still have to install my second 10 kilowatt inverter. Okay, so I believe there is I don't know what I call it, a law. There's a thing. Whatever you decide today is the right size. You will put that. In our case, it was we went from a 3.6 and a 2, combined them, went to 10 kilowatts. And 2 days after the 10 kilowatts went live, I was like, I really should have put a 15 in. Now, in the Solar Edge one, a 15 kilowatt inverter didn't exist without going to 3-phase. So there wasn't a chance for me to do it. But yeah, you could always put a second 10 kilowatt alongside it. I really like that thinking. I just don't know where I'd put the panels. I've got no roof space left. The wife's getting a bit annoyed with me taking up all the fence space. A lot of people ask about why don't I put panels on the roof of here. I've done a few drone shots, and you can see there's a big flat roof above me. The downside is that all the drone shots you see is in the middle of winter. What you can't see is there are some massive trees directly behind that wall, and they grow up and they grow over. So the entire roof, although it is, it's kind of, what is it, north is that way. The panels would be relatively flat on the roof. So in theory, as the sun tracks around, it would get sun on the panels. No sunshine gets on there in the summer at all. There's just too much tree cover around them. In the winter they might get a tiny bit, but the sun tends to track this way, pretty low on the horizon. Again, doesn't really shine directly on them, so I'm not sure it would really work. But if I could make it work, trust me, I'd have a second 10 kilowatt inverter. I'm going to delete that from the recording just so that the CFO can't hear it. And plan to double twin 10 kilowatt inverters. Wow. Sadly, no Octopus plans here to pay me as the agency. I'm a little confused. Oh, sorry, you're outside the UK. Okay, that's why. Yeah, I've got a friend that he lives in London. He's in one of these buildings where they have a community power agreement. His heating's all done centrally, and they don't get any choice over who their energy supplier is, and the company or the management company that owns the apartment building won't let them put solar panels on their balconies. They won't let them put them on the flat roof. And he said, well, we want to go to Octopus. And they said, no, you have to, your contract with us is that you buy your energy through us. And it turns out this company is just buying its energy from Octopus. So it's taken all the advantages of a smart tariff and not passing any of it on to their customers. Apparently they're having a come to Jesus meeting with the management company in the next couple of weeks. Let's have a look here. If tax is paid to HMRC, can you offset? Well, so somebody commented on this. Again, not an accountant, not an expert in tax, as I said in the video, not an expert in just about anything. But it seems right to me that if you have to pay tax on energy you generate from your solar panels and from your battery system, is you should be able to write off the cost of that as an asset if you're paying tax on the outcome from it. Again, an actual accountant, somebody who knows the rules around this would have to chime in on that, but it sounds fine to me. Businesses do this. You buy an asset, you write that asset off against tax. You have cost me. I don't even want to click on the next one. Fortune, I bought a full solar system and now put Seekaflow streaming panels on my fence. I am not responsible. I'm not even responsible for myself, so you can't blame me for that, I'm afraid. But yeah, I have no self-control when it comes to this kind of stuff. I don't know whether it's because I'm getting closer to retirement, and I'm like, the more money I can save doing this, the less I have to take out my pension, which means my pension will go further. It's an illness. I need help. The cost of retrofitting UPS or EPS, quite expensive from what I understand. So with our solar edge system, we went from the 3.6 kilowatt solar edge inverter in the garage to the 10 kilowatt. The backup interface, although it was available, wasn't compatible with my older solar edge inverter. So we had to buy the new inverter to be able to get the facility to be able to add the backup interface. Now, I believe most modern systems have this as part of it, but retrofitting it generally means rip and replace to get something that is compatible with it. Generally, as far as I am aware, you need whatever the backup gateway is, the batteries and everything all needs to come from one vendor. I haven't seen any that work across multiple vendors. Maybe there's some other way where you can do it with an inverter, a backup interface, and a third-party battery system. But it's not cheap to. I think it's not an easy retrofit to do it. The simple way to do it seems to be buy a SIG energy system, and you've got the batteries, the inverter, the whole gateway, and everything all as one package. Do you force charge over? So last year I did. So last year, my strategy last year was I charged the batteries overnight every single night during the summer, so that when the sun came up at 5, I think about 5 a.m. it starts striking the panels on the north side of my house. I would start exporting because those batteries were 100% full at 5:30 in the morning, and it worked out. I ended up with a £0 bill. In fact, slightly. Octopus ended up owing me about £43 for the year. My modelling with Flux, where I'm not grid charging the batteries, that I'm self-consuming, storing it in the batteries, and then force exporting to the grid, seems to think I'm going to get a return of around about £300 or £400 profit, as opposed to 43. So it worked as a strategy, but it probably wasn't the most efficient. But I will let you know at the end of 2026. In fact, for those that are new to come into these live streams, I normally do a live stream at the beginning of every month, and I actually go through and I'll give you my numbers for the month in those live streams, so you can you can sit there and in misery with me as I go through how much I've spent in the January, February months. But it should all work out at the end of the year. But yeah, we did grid charge those batteries. Where did you get your supported batteries list from? So on the Intelligent Flux this morning. So if you put in if you go to the Intelligent Flux site, there's a button that says, "Am I eligible?" So click that. It will then give you a drop down list, and it will say what model of battery you've got. It will then ask you if you've got a smart meter, and then if you click one of those and you click you've got a smart meter, then they'll tell you that you're eligible. Um, they they don't have they don't have certainly for things like the Give Energy batteries. There's no model numbers, so I don't know if there is some that are and some that aren't. With Tesla, it's Powerwall 3. With Sig Energy, it's Sig and Store. It's all the kind of the standard ones. But for vendors like Give Energy, who have got multiple systems and multiple revisions and years of systems, you might need to check on the exact version. But yeah, according to it this morning, Tesla Powerwall 3 and Give Energy were both on that list. So if it's something you're interested in, yeah, just head over, just Google Intelligent Flux and hit that "Am I eligible?" button. Anyone got advice looking for solar and battery? Use less than 1,000 a year and roof, all in solar. Am I going way overboard or a good idea? Very hard to give advice based on just that little bit of information. Obviously, it depends on how long you plan to be in that property. If you're going to stay there, I mean, one of the other advantages that we have is that when we bought this house back in 1997, we made a decision pretty quickly that this was our forever house, and therefore we could do things like put solar on it because we knew we were going to be here until they put us in the ground. Um, if you don't know that, if the downside to making a decision like that early on is, if you get offered a job and it's at the other end of the country, are you going to keep the house here? Are you going to rent? Well, there's all sorts of other things to consider there. But if you're only using 1,000 kilowatts a year, um, and you put in a solar system, you'll easily generate 1,000 kilowatt hours of energy a year with a solar system. If you generate 2,000 kilowatt, are you then going to be liable for tax from HMRC because you're more than doubling it? There's a whole lot of other factors, is what I'm trying to say. Is that, but I think it's always a good idea if you're going to be staying in the house, then it's an investment that will pay for itself, time and time and time again. SIG is technically not pure UPS, but it is so. Yeah, so this is the. I remember this back in my IT days, early 90s in the .com era. We bought a UPS that was the size of a shipping container, and it required a grid feed into one end of it, and it had to be certified to run the data center that it was on. It literally had to flow through the batteries and then out the other end, and there had to be zero downtime. With a lot of these systems that claim UPS functionality, they say 20 milliseconds. 20 milliseconds is about the limit. Any more than that, your computer will probably reboot. But I've seen demos of the SIG system with an incandescent light bulb, and the reason they use incandescent light bulbs rather than LEDs is LEDs. There is a momentary thing where it'll continue to shine, and you won't notice the power's dropped for half a second. With an incandescent bulb, you will see it flicker. So they use incandescent bulbs to demo this, and you flick the switch to turn off the grid, and the bulb just continues to shine. So it is super, super fast. And I think the Tesla system, from what I understand, is again, they claim UPS, but it's not anywhere near as good as the SIG system. If I was redoing everything right now, I'd be buying a SIG system, absolutely without a doubt. My Powerwall 3 doesn't flicker when switching over. Might be a US thing since it uses a meter. It could well be. So in the UK they have the gateway panel. You have breakers in the panel, and again, I think for use here in the UK, the way it was explained to me by the electrician is the contactor switch. When mine goes, it sounds like somebody throwing one of those old Frankenstein switches. There's a clunk when it disconnects. So you have to have a physical separation between you and the grid before the batteries are allowed to start supplying power. Now that can be very quick, but it can't be instantaneous as far as I'm aware. So it could be just difference in design with the Powerwall. Tom's saying Powerwall 3 EPS is fast enough for me. yeah, if it works for you, then no issues. How many of those I was getting? Uh, yeah, just keep asking. Become a pain in the ass to the DNO. Send them a request for an update every other week. Like I say, we have Eastern Power Networks. I can never remember their name. UK Power Networks. UKPN is ours here in the east of England. Um, I call. I don't email. I don't text. I don't fill in forms on websites because they can all be ignored. I ring and talk to a human being, and my experience with them has always been really good. They've always, they go out of their way to try and help. So again, I've known people that National Grid are um, their DNO, and they say they're an absolute nightmare to work with. With a power through. Yeah, I mean the one thing I would say for Tesla, and the same for my Tesla car, um, their software engineers are really good. They continually evolving the software stack on them. I mean, I remember going back to my original. I had a Tesla Model S when they first launched in the UK in 2014. Um, and I've got photographs now of the old UI and the generational jumps, and you see how the software's developed over the years. Same with the Powerwalls. When you look at the original Powerwall compared to where they are now, they do a really good thing. David's just ordered an air-to-air system. How big is it, David? Did you get a multi-room split or just a dinky one? I'm only looking for a single split system here. Don't need anything bigger than that. James Foxy says now support. Yeah, they were on the list this morning. Again, I think they've added a whole pile of new battery manufacturers to it, because when I looked at it, I would say 6 months ago there were like three on that list. Um, and again, now there's half a dozen. Newbie, can Octopus Go with EV thinking of solar and batteries next year? Can I still stay with Octopus Go? No, you can stay with Go. No, there now with Go you can choose your export. So you can say I want uh, outgoing or you can be on outgoing. You can be on outgoing agile. Are there any others? I think they're the two that you can choose from. If you're on Flux, you have to be on outgoing Flux. There's no choice. You can't be on outgoing Flux without being on Flux. They're linked together. So yeah, you can stay. You don't have to switch to Flux. Um, okay, and let's see things. Yeah, I mean, just to put it into perspective, on the going back to the fit export, the deemed export. So I look back. I've got all the paperwork for my fit payments going back to 2010. We used to make about £400 a year. No, let me get that. Sorry, that was £400 for generation, and I think it was about £50 a year for export. It was because it was only a tiny little 2 kilowatt system. By separating that out, we now make £1,000 a year from export. Now, obviously, we've got a bigger system now. But the other thing is when you basically upgrade your fit system with their permission and you get paid a percentage of it, I've noticed my payments have gone up quite significantly. And I did query it with them and said, "You do know that I'm getting paid more than I was before, and I don't want to get into any trouble." And they said, "No, it's fine. It was all done properly. Don't worry about it." The reason is that my 18% of my whole system is much more efficient than the whole 100% of the 2 kilowatt system. Um, so I end up actually generating more and putting more into the batteries for use later on. So, yeah, I would certainly talk to your provider. Congratulations on your pending return. It's not pending anymore. It is absolutely set in stone. So I've been negotiating with my company to finish up my projects, and yeah, before my 58th birthday, I will be officially retired, and I will be a full-time YouTuber. Isn't that frightening? No grid gas for you tonight. Your batteries up. Just so. Yeah, we don't have any grid gas at all. Our gas has been disconnected, so it's all gone. Very tempted to go with air to air. Yeah, and it is covered by the boiler upgrade scheme now, but it's only for two. I think it's £2,500. So you don't get £7,500 like you do for an air to water system. You can get £2,500 from the if you take your boiler out. This is the thing: is a lot of people say, well, why not do a hybrid? Keep the boiler as an emergency. What most people don't realise is gas boilers need electricity to run. So the common sort of fallacy is electricity goes out, you can still run your boiler, you can heat water, you can make dinner. Can't do any of those because you need electricity to run the control board or the computer that's in your boiler. You also need electricity for the pumps to pump the hot water around the system and all the rest of it. So when they go out, your boiler's effectively useless. Um, so yeah, if you're gonna if you're gonna go all in, go all in, get it ripped out, get the grant. Tesla Powerwalls are too locked down. I can't comment on that, but I'll take your word for it. I'm also adding another 10 kilowatts of batteries. I like that. I've got a plan. So I probably shouldn't talk about this in case the CFO watches this, but I have a plan. I want to build what I call an energy vault. So all of the other little battery systems I've got kicking around the place, they all feed into the house and into the grid. Is what I want to be able to do is to store away a chunk of energy that I can keep in a battery, and then I can trickle bits of it out, or I can take large chunks of it out when I need it, but then charge it up, put it back in the vault, keep it there for a few days. Um, she's never going to let me do it, but that's my plan anyway. Um, do you think the intelligent flux price will drop as much? Well, flux changed last year. So they already dropped the prices for flux middle, I think it was about March last year, if memory serves. So I'm hoping that they won't make, you know, the the outgoing price was dropped later. So I think they're already, both of them have been dropped to the right level. Now again, once the incoming prices drop in April, I think there might be another realization of, okay, these need to be re-looked at. But I'm hoping they don't drop it. So Joe was saying 20 milliseconds is one cycle. So one sine wave of your 50 hertz electricity supply, 20 milliseconds. Tesla only claim EPS. It's interesting because I was in the Tesla showroom that's down the road from us. I was at the supercharger there, and if you're ever using a Tesla supercharger, always go into the showroom because there's always free coffee. They have Nespresso machines in there, and usually Jaffa cakes. So always worth going to get a coffee from there. And I was actually listening to somebody talking about Powell, and I distinctly heard the Tesla salesman tell the person it was a UPS if you had the backup gateway. So interesting that it's really not. As boredom drifts over the horizon. You're getting bored now, are you? Okay. Artisan Electrics. My electricians are on the live stream. So, hey guys, welcome. Yeah, it's been gorgeous here in Cambridge today. I'm going to go and export my battery in a few minutes. And the very last comment is from August saying hello. So, we are just over the hour. So, I think we will call it there. So yeah, I do appreciate you all jumping on with me. I know I didn't give you an awful lot of notice for this one, but let me pull up the results there. Let's see. So yeah, as I expected, most people are kind of meh, not really bothered, not angry, not okay with it. But I don't know. I still feel like somebody's put their hand in my wallet and taken a load of money out and run off with it. So we will see. We will see what happens with that. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Again, appreciate you all spending the last hour with me. We covered an awful lot of ground there. So, but if you do have questions, then please do reach out to me. I try to do everything I can to answer as many of the comments in the videos as I possibly can. I don't always get to all of them, but I do what I can with them. With that, I'm going to get out of here. Have a great evening. I'll talk to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.